Hello. Welcome to another episode of KWBE, Kicking It with Brother Ed. I'm Ed Steve, your host. You are in the right place. Don't touch that dial, as they say. It is Sunday, April 16th. It's 2 o'clock p.m. And the long-awaited cowboy, that black urban rodeo guy, Jesse Hall, the one you've been waiting for, is now with us here in the studio. He's a black cowboy, a former bodybuilder, a golfer, a counselor to many, a Christian warrior. You're going to love meeting this gentleman. He is one of a kind for sure. So without further ado, I am going to bring him up, and his name again is Jesse Hall. So everybody, let's welcome Jesse Hall up in here, right? Jesse Hall. I forgot that. I always forget the kids got to do their thing too. Welcome to KWBE, Jesse Hall. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic, Ed. How are you?
Man, I am so blessed, and I'm so happy to see you here. We got so many questions for you, but let's just start out. But who is Jesse Hall? And let me say first to everybody out there who's viewing this, I've only known Jesse, I guess, about 5 or 6 months. And the first time I saw him, I was amazed because everybody in the gymnasium where we work out was coming to this guy. And I'm like, somebody's going to kiss this dude's ring before it's all over. But it turns out after he introduced himself to me, I found that he's a counselor and advisor, and everybody trusts him, including me. So we are blessed. So, Jesse, other than that, tell us, who is Jesse Hall, man?
Well, I'm just a child of God, period. I come from humble background. I was raised in New York City, and that's all I knew. I was in Spanish Harlem where there was always controversy going on, but that was the world I knew until I discovered horses. And what that did was it took me out of the city where I was raised, which was kind of challenging. And I got involved with horses in the Bronx, New York, and started riding horses, pleasure horses every weekend. And it started to grow a little bit more each weekend. And I did that for a couple of years. Then I brought my own horse. And then I had some friends of mine that used to rodeo, which I knew nothing about. And they used to practice in back of the barn up in the Bronx, New York. We had 5 riding academies up there. And we used to go trail riding, pleasure riding. And I loved it. I naturally fit right in. I don't know.
Well, let me ask you a question. How old were you? Now, you're in the Bronx, which is not a place we normally associate with horse riding. How old were you when this started? And what is it that prompted you to like say, hey, I want to do that. I want to get on a horse, because it started out as a recreational thing, right?
Yeah, well, it started out, in high school in the senior year. A bunch of us went on a boat ride to Bear Mountain Park. And that was actually the first time I'd really been out of the city, because all we did was stay in the city.
How old were you then?
Bear Mountain Park in upstate New York.
But how old were you when you took that trip?
About 16, 17 years old.
And before that, you never rode on a horse or anything, never thought about it.
I never even touched a horse in my life.
So never. Interesting. Go ahead.
And we did a lot of things up there. And somebody said, let's go horseback riding. And everybody follows everybody else. And we got on these horses and trail ride. And the guy turned around and says, how long you been riding? I said, this is my first time. He said, no, you're lying. I said, what do you mean I'm lying? He says, you look like you've been riding for a while. I said, honestly, it's my first time. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I know it's fun. And that's where it all started.
So where did you go from there? So if this guy tells you that you look like you've been riding all along, and how did you turn from that guy to the guy we know as Jesse Hall, or your other name, Charlie Reno? What
Well,
happened in that period of time?
but what happened was when I went back to the neighborhood where we were raised, I didn't see any future in what we were doing. I just didn't see nothing happening, generating in my life to excite me. But that horseback riding brought up another challenge. It was a challenge that I liked. And so I finally started going to the Bronx where they had the riding academies, riding every week and spending whatever I could spend on riding horses. And the owner said, you're spending a lot of money riding horses. You might as well own one and you can ride them 24/7.
Right.
It'd probably be a lot cheaper. So I did that. I brought my first horse about maybe 6-7 months into the program. And
Are you kidding?
no, about 6 or 7 months after. And I just naturally felt comfortable in that home. And the people of the surroundings was pretty good also. But I saw some growth somewhere. Didn't know where it was going to take me. Rodeo was the last thing in my mind because I knew nothing about rodeo. But it just happened to fall in there unnaturally. It fell in there by the people that I was surrounded by. And the cowboys that were in the Bronx that was doing this for a living more or less coaxed me into trying it. And then I started going to a local rodeo in South Jersey called Cowtown Rodeo every Saturday night from Memorial Day to Labor Day, right down in Salem County. And I just used to go with the guys just to hold the horses, groom the horses. I didn't compete. I didn't get into any events or nothing. It was kind of rough. But they finally talked me into saying, if you come in every week, get a permit, and you can ride in the rodeo. So I told them, what do I do? Bareback horses, saddle broncs.
Right.
There's 70 events. One is a girls' event, so I couldn't do that. But it says you should get into steer wrestling because it's for the bigger guys. When you're small, get into rough stock events, which is the bull riding, the bareback riding, and the saddle bronc riding. So me, I'm a dummy. I don't know nothing. They coaxed me into getting on these bucking horses. Woo! That was a trip. The first year or two, fell off everything, bucked off everything. It was just like, this wasn't for me. But I kept coming back.
You didn't get discouraged? You didn't feel like, this ain't for me?
I just felt that I could learn this eventually if I survived. And I was surviving, so I stayed with it. Then I went to a couple of schools, and then you got to qualify to get a professional card. That means you got to win $1,000 in the event that you're in. And I did that over 3 years.
For you?
What was that?
It cost you $1,000?
No, that's what I had to win by competing.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got it. I had it backwards. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue.
So when I won that $1,000, I sent away for my professional card, which means I could rodeo in any rodeo in the United States. That's a PRCA rodeo. That's the biggest association there is. So I figured I went to a couple of rodeo schools and I'm riding pretty good. And maybe I can just get away from Cowtown. Cowtown was professional. It wasn't a real big rodeo. It was just a medium rodeo. And I started going down the road, trying to chase my dreams. I wanted to be a champion one day.
Tell us some of the places you went to in your, as you spread your wings, so to speak.
I went to a lot of rodeos all over the country: Cow Palace, San Francisco, Madison Square Garden, Odessa. I was in it in Fort Worth, but I had to turn out because I broke my wrist the day before. And I went to Kansas, went to quite a few rodeos all over the United States and PRCA rodeos. Chicago.
Let me ask you, don't lose that thought. I want to ask you a couple of questions. I mean, you're from the Bronx, I'm from Newark. Money was scarce back in the day. I want to know, how did you manage to do all of this traveling? And even before that, how did you manage to purchase your own horse? That's bizarre to me, and probably to some of our viewers. Tell us about that.
Well, I worked part-time in a supermarket called Garden Market in New York City on Lexington Avenue. And I did that, after school. And then after I graduated, I went full-time and started saving my money up. And then I used to go to rodeos on weekends and work during the week, all week long. So that's how I accumulated the little money that I had. But I spent everything I had was going to rodeos, paying entry fees, traveling, whichever way I could get into the PRCA and try to become somebody that would be recognized. So that's how I started off. I worked in the
That's
supermarket for
awesome.
years.
And let me say this too to our viewing audience, especially the young people. When you have a dream or something that you're aspiring to achieve, like Brother Jesse Hall did, you see what he did. He did his work. He knew he had to finance what he was doing, so he went to work. Nobody gives you anything. You gotta like kind of
Yeah,
work for it. You gotta strive for it. And I believe, Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong. The more you strive, the more you can receive. Is that about right?
that's correct. But you have to do it. You can't expect somebody to give it to you, and you can't hope for it. You have to go make it happen.
All right. And
It,
what about
it,
all the traveling? How did you finance that?
don't get my pocket. In other words, if I want to go to Kansas, I get a flight, budget myself, fly to Kansas, have my entry fees intact, and that's exactly how you got to do it at every rodeo. You had to have a budget. Nobody's
So
going to
you
pay your
saved
entry
a
fees.
lot,
Yeah, well, nobody's going to pay your entry fees but you. So you
right?
have to. It's just like booking anything else in life. Save for vacations, you save for parties, you save for festivals. My whole life was just centered around rodeoing, and that was all I
Right,
wanted to do. There was
right.
no
And that's
distractions.
amazing too, because we hear so many people in America today complaining about, and some of them have legitimate complaints, like healthcare and other things, but everybody has like cell phones and cable TV, right? So you could, like you said, you
Yeah,
could save for a party, you could save for these things, but there's other things that we could save for our aspirations and healthcare and
yeah,
things like that. Now, but I want to get a little serious with you. Um, you're a little bit older than me, right?
right.
So I um I think we're the oldest two in the morning though, or three of us in the
Well,
gym early in
I
the
can speak
morning.
for, I can speak for myself. I'm probably the oldest one there.
You're definitely the oldest one there, and amazing what he does in the gym, y'all. But we'll get to that before the program's over. Uh, but being that you are older and you're talking about getting on these planes to Kansas and all of these places, did you experience either at that time or growing up or both or any times in between any racism? Like I know you had challenges, but was racism among the challenges? What do you say about that?
Well, the world is what the world is, and rodeo wasn't exempt from that. There's
Right,
prejudice in everything, in everybody to a certain extent, but it's basically based on ignorance. You can't be prejudiced to somebody if you know nothing about them. So,
right.
I mean, I've been to rodeos where I was the only black cowboy there,
I
and
believe it.
I got some looks that wasn't really comfortable, but
Right,
I knew what I was getting into, and I just wasn't going to let anybody take my dream from me. And what I wanted to do was find out why they were like that. Some of them, not all of them. There were some
right,
great people I met, but I wanted to find out. I didn't go in there with the attitude saying, "You guys are not going to give me a fair shot. You're not going to do this." I went in there with my program. My program was I want to know why they don't like me or they show indifference. Well, they didn't know nothing about me. So I had to turn it around. How are they going to know something about me if I don't approach the problem?
right.
It's that
So you
easy.
showed them who Jesse Hall is.
Well, it's that easy if you think about it. You can
Right,
make a matter worse if you're ignorant about it. Find
right.
out how people are. Find out the culture you're in and see how you can
Yes,
adjust and make things
yes.
work. But you never
Amen.
find that out unless you do it.
And I know, Jesse, I know you well enough to know that you do things the Christian way. And I want to tell the viewing audience, first of all, shout out to all our Crunch Fitness in Toms River, New Jersey, brothers and sisters, uh, most of whom are Caucasian. But I'm telling you, they love this guy. The first day I walked in that gym, I felt a little uncomfortable, not terribly, because I believe what Brother Jesse said, about showing people who you are so they judge you by the content of your character, right? And but
Exactly.
I noticed that all of these people are coming up to this guy. And it wasn't until I got to know him myself, which was only a couple of days after starting in the gym, that I realized this man is an ambassador for Jesus Christ. And Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong. He oversteps issues that would otherwise stop people like racism and discrimination or people being uncomfortable. He overcomes that with love. Is that right? Did I say that accurately?
Yeah, you did say it accurately. And, you know, when somebody's uncomfortable, they do things that's uncomfortable. If you can make somebody feel comfortable, I guarantee you, you'll get comfort out of that. I've
Amen.
been in that gym for 4 or 5 years now, and nobody's going to go by me without me saying, hello, how are you? What's your
I
name?
bear witness. You are definitely the go-to guy at Crunch and Tom's River.
But what's the worst that could happen? Nothing, you know? If they say
Yes,
nothing, then you try again. Just don't give up on them.
right.
They may want help, but don't know how to ask for it.
I love that, man, and you're preaching to me, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers to learn to overcome things. And it's still, particularly in that you have taken advantage of so many opportunities. It's still a great country, man. There's still
Yeah.
opportunities here. And no
Well,
need of us spending our
look,
time worrying about what's wrong. Let's take hold of what's right. Am I right?
right. Well, you can't run away from problems because they're gonna stay with you. The only way you can solve a problem is find out about it and try to help solve it. But if you run away
Amen.
from it, you'll never solve it. It won't
Amen.
happen. Just
Now
won't
tell
happen.
me something else. I want to get back to where we were going before. What was it? Can you name one thing or two things that caused you to say, I want to be? Because I see how you started out. You started out, it was kind of like a recreational thing. Then you found out you were good at it. Was there one or two things, or maybe that guy who said, hey, you've been doing this all at one time? Seems like you've been doing it a long time. What was the one or two things, or one or two people that caused you to say, I want to do this thing?
Well, the first thing was the mother raised us all right. You know, I mean, really strong mom I had. My mom was the only thing we had. But I remember saying when I told her I wanted to rodeo, the first thing she just said was, "That's not for you. That's
Wow.
for
What does she mean by
everybody
that,
else."
Jesse? What
Well,
does she
well, she
mean by
just
that?
well, she was born in Mississippi. I was born in Mississippi also. So down there in the '60s and '70s, it wasn't the best place for black people to be.
Right.
But she saw a lot of things that she didn't want to tell us about or discuss with us, so we left it at that. But when I told her I wanted to rodeo and where I was going, she was afraid for me, thinking that something was going to happen to me. But I didn't see that. All I saw was what I wanted to do. Well, you can call it young and dumb if you want, but I just had my faith was that God's going to take care of me. It's that
Amen.
simple, you know. So I
That
went
that is
anyway.
admirable.
But that's the thing that pushed me even further to go because
Wow.
she didn't want me to do that, and I thought that was not a way to live life, being stopped by other situations. You know, you just got
Sure.
to stay on the path that you're on, and make things happen. But you got to have you can't go in there tiptoeing. You got to go all the way in. There's no halfway.
Yes.
No, it wasn't
I love
comfortable.
that.
You know what? I wanted something greater than being comfortable. I wanted what I wanted, not what somebody else wanted me to have. And it takes
Wow.
talking, time, effort, practice, consistency, faith, hope, and
Those
just
are
go
all
do it.
important acronyms. I'm sorry, important words.
Well,
Faith, consistency. These are all very important, and I'm glad you brought that up. Now, how long were you doing this Black Cowboy thing?
well, I started out in 1964, and I rodeoed till '68. Then I broke my neck at a rodeo. I bucked off a horse, and I was at the Cowtown Rodeo in Salem County, New Jersey. And I was laid up until 1971. Then I started back, and that's when my first wife says, "Time out. I can't be involved with that again. That was
Right,
too much
right.
for me to handle, and you're going right back to it. I can't go through that twice." So we got a divorce, and then I went down the road again. So I started going to the big rodeos, and in '72, I was entered in Fort Worth at a professional rodeo, and I was at a jackpot the day before, and I broke my wrist on a steer,
Wow.
bulldog and a steer, which is steer wrestling. And I broke my wrist, and that's my riding hand. So I couldn't go to Fort Worth because I couldn't ride. I had a cast on, went to the hospital, turned out the stock that I had, went back home, New York. drove back home, and I stayed home from 72 to 77. And I got married in 78 and then started raising a family. Then I had the urge to rodeo again. So
So you
I
kept
started,
going back. Nothing was stopping you.
no, well, I didn't fulfill my dream that I had. The dream I had was I wanted to be a champion. So I started going to the rodeos in the Northeast and the Southeast. It's a regional rodeo group. It's like the American Rodeo Association. It's a little
Hmm.
smaller than the PRCA because they're worldwide. But I had a job and I had a family to take care of. That was more important than the dream I had if it's going to sacrifice my family.
Right.
So what I did was I started rodeoing in the circuit. And in 78, I started, and I was leading the association in 78, and I broke my foot. A horse fell on my foot and broke my foot. Couldn't ride. So stayed out a year, healed up, and in 79, I came back and I won the bareback championship for that year, and I won the all-around championship in that same year, which was
That's
1980.
amazing.
So finally, I got my dream. My dream came true. I became a champion,
That
and
is
that
awesome.
that kind of like slowed me down a little bit. But I kind of like slid out the back door of the rodeo, started getting out of it, and I started producing rodeos. I got my own company, Hall and Sons Championship Rodeo Company, which I produced rodeos for the associations that I used to rodeo with. I produced PRCA rodeo, ARA rodeos, IPRA rodeos, and I did that for about 5 to 6 years. And then it got to be so much of a burden, and it was taking me away from my mainstream family. So I kind of like gave that up. And after that, I started my own business because I retired from the supermarket business that I was in. And I started my own business, which was transporting automobiles. I brought a dually and a trailer, and I started part-time transferring cars back and forth. I did that for about 6 years, and it got to be too expensive to run, so I just got rid of the business. And I still needed to do something. Couldn't stay home. So I got a job with New Jersey Transit, one of the big bus companies in New
Right.
Jersey,
Right.
part-time, 29 hours a week, go to New York twice a day, 4 or 5 days a week, paid pretty good. I did that for 10 years, from 2010 to 2020. That's
That's
when,
awesome.
yeah, but that's when COVID came in. And I had a choice to
Right.
make. Do I
Right.
want to be on a bus with people coming in and out all day long, and we don't know who's got COVID or what COVID is or whatever,
Right.
and bring it home to my family? I chose to retire from that company because of COVID. So I
Right.
retired from there, and now here I am going to the gym 7 days a week, 2 hours
Amazing.
every
And tell the
day.
people you just had surgery and you came. Everybody in the gym is amazed. This brother had surgery not that long ago, and he's in the gym working out like a bandit. To tell the people about that, and then I got a couple other questions, but go ahead.
Well, I back in '78, I dislocated my shoulder, and they didn't operate, but they just set it back, and I went on rodeo in the next few months. And after all them years of rodeo from '78 up until 1984, I was doing damage to it, but
Right.
young and dumb, it didn't matter. Make a long
Right.
story short, was it finally got to a point a couple of years ago where it was really getting bad. I couldn't lift it no higher than this, and the pain was getting to be too much of a factor. So I said, I got to get something done. So I decided to get a shoulder replacement. It was January 3rd when they went in there and replaced my shoulder, reverse shoulder replacement. When they take everything out they need to take out, get the arthritis out of there, put a titanium ball, titanium stem, and a titanium cup in there. So in other words, you have a new shoulder. But it's a long ordeal. It happened January 3rd. I'll still be rehabbing probably for a year. But I tell you what, it's getting better and better because I'm pursuing it harder and harder. I'm
But
not done.
Jesse, now the thing that baffles all of us at Crunch is, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think you were back in the gym within like a week. Is that right? Or was it
Well,
longer than that?
it was about 3 days later. I was on a bike.
That's
I
what I
couldn't.
thought. I was trying to be fair. I didn't want to like exaggerate. I thought it was actually 3 days. I almost said 3 days. It's amazing. Do
Well,
you mind? I mean, can I sh-
yeah.
or can, if you don't want to do it, I understand. Do you mind telling them how old you are? And if you don't, we got it.
No, I'm 79.
79. You're almost 80, right?
Excuse me?
You're gonna be 80 soon, yeah?
Yeah, so July.
Wow.
I'm a
This brother
Leo.
is amazing. And you were a champion bodybuilder. We're gonna get to that in a sec. But I know getting back to thank you for sharing that. Getting back to your rodeo days, you were also known as, and I think is on the flyer that we use to advertise your presence here, your appearance here. You were also known as Charlie Reno. Is that right?
Yeah, let me clear that up. My real name is Jesse Charles Hall. I got a nickname, Reno, from the people at the barn in the Bronx, where we had three guys named Charlie. So when they called Charlie, three guys tried to answer, but they only needed one. So what we decided to do was put their horse's name in their name. Charlie Reno, my horse's name was Reno. They had another guy named Charlie, his horse's name was Charlie that, and the third guy, etc. So that's how I got the nickname Reno. So when I rodeo in the beginning, I used Charlie Reno. Then after I broke my neck and everything else, and I started coming back, I used C.R. Hall, which is Charles Reno Hall. But I just cut it short.
Ah,
So that's where that came. So it's Jesse C.R. Hall is the Bible. Reno is the nickname. Everything else is Jesse Charles Hall.
that is amazing. And that's I think there's that image is that handsome young fella who was known as Charlie Reno back in the day. Is that right?
I don't know about the handsome stuff. All I wanted to do was rodeo. I didn't care about looks. All I cared about was performance. And that was it. I wasn't on the beauty contest. I was in a knockdown drag out contest.
Right.
It was different. So I wasn't interested too much in looks, but I was interested in being right, doing the right thing, looking out
I
for
know
other
our
people.
audience members will agree that that's a very a handsome photo. And you're still a handsome man, and it goes way back. I also want to share rather with our audience that you are featured in this book. The foreword of the book was written by Danny Glover, and
Right,
I'm gonna bring that up right now. Let's see here. Where is it? There it is. Jesse
right.
Hall is featured in this book. He's got a full length photo that I just showed you that came from this book. And if any of you, we have a few copies we're going to give away, and Jesse Hall, aka Charlie Reno, is going to autograph it for you personally, and we're going to send it to you. This is what we do on KWBE. We love being used by God to bless others. We have this free book, the forward written, as you can see on the cover there, by Danny Glover, the actor, Lethal Weapon, and all of that other stuff that he's done. He wrote the forward in this book. Jesse Hall is featured in there. We're going to give you a free copy of the book and a autographed photo in that book, autographed by the man himself, Jesse Hall, aka Charlie Reno. All you have to do is put something in the comment section, and the people who put in the best comments will win. Don't forget to subscribe, by the way, and give us a thumbs up on our program. We love featuring people who live in your neighborhood, who are doing great things like Jesse Hall. And believe it or
Right.
not, we are just about out of time. So I'm going to be quiet and give the floor back to you, Jesse Hall, aka Charlie Reno, for any parting words, particularly any parting advice that you have for our audience, please.
Well, tell you, it's my pleasure, first of all, for you presenting the autographed book. I appreciate that. And it's very simple. Love instead of hate. Don't be afraid to say hello. You just have to. It doesn't take a lot of energy to smile or say hello to somebody. You
True.
may smile back, but if you don't, then you know what kind of work you have cut out for you.
Yes,
But
sir.
it just takes time and patience, and nothing was done overnight. It takes time. You may hit 9 no's. That don't matter. It's the one yes you're looking for, and you'll never get there if you quit. So just keep trucking. It's very
And
simple.
that goes with the ticker tape comment you made a few moments ago. Stay on the path that you're on and go all the way. Don't half step. Don't hesitate. Jesse Hall, God bless you, sir. We're so happy to have had you on KWBE, Kicking It with Brother Ed. We hope you come back again. And we're out of time right now. So we're going to say so long to you, so long to everybody. We love you all. There's the music. God bless you. Much love to everyone. God bless you, Jesse Hall. Say goodbye to everybody. All
Hi,
right.
everybody. Thank you for
Love
your
y'all,
time.
man.
Thank you. You bet.
See you
Thank
next
you.
time. By the way, next month is National Fitness Month. We have a powerful young lady coming right out of our gym that Jesse and I go to, Crunch Fitness, and she's going to share some powerful things with you. Her name is Diana. I can't wait till you see her. That's going to be next month, May, National Fitness Month. Until then, I'm Kicking It with Brother Ed. I'm Ed Steed, your host. Stay blessed, stay safe, and we'll see you again.